Welcome back to Hardball. Utah Senator Mitt Romney took to the Senate floor today to excoriate the president and the ceasefire. Let's watch.
The announcement today is being portrayed as a victory. It is far from a victory. Serious questions remain about how the decision was reached to precipitously withdraw from Syria and why that decision was reached. Given the initial details of the ceasefire agreement, the administration must also explain what America's future role will be in the region, what happens now to the Kurds, and why Turkey will face no apparent consequences. Further, the ceasefire does not change the fact that America has abandoned an ally. The decision to abandon the Kurds violates one of our most sacred duties. It strikes at American honor. What we have done to the Kurds will stand as a blood stain in the annals of American history.
In a joint statement issued late this afternoon, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer slammed the ceasefire, writing this, quote, "President Trump is flailing. The president's decision to reverse sanctions against Turkey for brutally attacking our Kurdish partners in exchange for a sham ceasefire seriously undermines the credibility of America's foreign policy and sends a dangerous message to our allies and adversaries alike that our word cannot be trusted. President Erdogan has given up nothing, and President Trump has given him everything." For more, I'm joined by Robert Pearson, former U.S. ambassador to Turkey and non-resident scholar at the Middle East Institute, and David French, senior writer at the National Review. Thank you both for being with us. Ambassador, let me just start with you. That statement we just have there from Pelosi and Schumer, the contention is, look, there is a 5-day pause here, and it looks like supposedly during this period, the Kurds will be removed, which was Turkey's goal all along. Is there more to it than that?
No, I think this is a clear victory for Turkey. They get territory without having to fight for it. The Kurds abandoned territory at the request and insistence of the United States. So if anything goes wrong with the withdrawal, it will be on the United States' hands to handle it. In addition, there was an affirmation that we will remove all military forces from Syria, which is a tremendous victory for the Russians. And ISIS is set loose, and nothing is said or done about the now 160 or 175,000 refugees that have been created as a result of this conflict so far.
Well, David, I think a lot of Americans maybe who don't follow this day in and day out over the last week have heard a lot about the Kurds, about the role of the Kurds in helping the United States when it came to the fight against ISIS over the last few years. What now for the Kurds?
You know, what now for the Kurds is their logical next decision is to make whatever arrangement they can with Russia and with the Assad regime, which will amplify Russian and Syrian and Iranian power in the region. I've been trying to come up with a good analogy to help people understand what happened here. And the best I can think of is, imagine if someone attacked Baltimore and we went and we said, we'll give you, in exchange for a ceasefire, you can have all of Maryland. I mean, this is essentially what was happening. Is we said, in exchange for a ceasefire, you can have the military objectives that essentially all the military objectives that you want. And this is a tremendous defeat. What this ceasefire agreement does is it seals a defeat. It is a tremendous defeat. There's no way to spin it. The only silver lining is hopefully, possibly, this defeat will result in no further bloodshed as Turkey gets what it wants without further bloodshed. But even that's in doubt, as we're already getting reports of perhaps, hopefully, only sporadic violations of the ceasefire, but getting reports of violations of the ceasefire already.
Ambassador, you mentioned a minute ago one of the implications, you say ISIS set loose because of the events over the last week. In terms of the threat from ISIS, which I think alarmed so many Americans a few years ago, and Americans probably felt was more under control lately, what is the future there?
Well, I think there are about 70,000 people in various camps around northeastern Syria who are associated with ISIS. Some ISIS fighters already were in the fight when the first days of this conflict restarted. And so they are now free to make their way into Turkey, make their way into Iraq, into other countries. They'll take their cells internationally. There's no control over them. The U.S. said that it might be able to attack ISIS from Iraq territory. I think that's a lot more hope than reality. So, in fact, this is the unaddressed question, which will be extremely significant as time goes forward.
President Trump today seemed to echo Turkish President Erdogan's views when it comes to Syria. He defended Turkey's desire to remove, or in his words, clean out Syrian Kurds from the region. Take a listen.
You have a 22-mile strip that for many, many years, Turkey, in all fairness, they've had a legitimate problem with it. They had terrorists. They had a lot of people in there that they couldn't have. They've suffered a lot of loss of lives also, and they had to have it cleaned out.
Earlier this week, images of alleged atrocities by Turkish-backed fighters were circulated on social media. The images were verified by multiple U.S. officials. David, that language there, certainly the president using the term cleaned out, got a lot of attention today. I think more broadly, the political question I'm curious about with you is the Republican reaction to this. Unusual in the course of Trump's presidency to have so many Republicans so vocally displeased with him. And it doesn't seem to be abating with this, or is it?
Well, I haven't seen it abating yet. I mean, of course, in the sort of the hardcore Trumpist regions, they were casting this ceasefire defeat as a victory. But the smarter and savvier members of Congress are not buying it. There should be, and I hope there will be, a set of willing ears, a set of receptive ears hearing Mitt Romney's message that you played earlier. This has been, I think, certainly in the Trump presidency, the largest policy difference that we have seen between congressional Republicans and the White House. And I think one of the reasons is the White House decision is so indefensible. It was so sudden, it was so shocking, and the results were so immediately catastrophic that even Trump-friendly Republicans didn't have anywhere to hide on this.
Quickly, David, I'm just curious, does this connect anyway? We talk about the politics of it. Does this connect to impeachment at all? The fact of so many Republicans being this vocal, does one meet the other at some point?
I don't think it will, honestly. I think that they will cast this as a policy difference, and impeachment is a completely separate thing. But I do think it should connect, because in the Ukraine situation and the Syria situation, you're seeing a combination of corruption and unfitness with incompetence that says to the American people, this president is a dangerous individual in the Oval Office.
All right, David French and Ambassador Robert Pearson, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, and up next, paying tribute to a man